Welcome. So happy of you to join us. I am Ray, and what if I told you that suffering was a choice? You know, I had a funny experience with this recent election. The day that Trump got elected, I went onto social media, and one of the first videos I saw was this guy saying, "Look, everybody, everything's gonna be okay. I know it's scary. I know these are dark times. Everything is going to be okay. We'll get through this. I promise. I promise." And I was looking at that video, and I thought, what is he talking about? I feel great. I'm happy right now. And then I realized, wait a minute. If Kamala would have had been elected president, I would have been feeling the same way. It just so happens that I like Trump. Now, this is not a political thing. The point is, 50% of the population felt wonderful the day that Trump was elected, and 50% felt terrible. And if the roles were reversed, the 50% that felt great would now feel terrible. The 50% that feels terrible would now feel great. Why? For no other reason than your own reaction. When you react negatively to something, you suffer. And when you react positively, you're happy. Why does this happen? It's because of our chosen identity. And based off that identity, we say, this is when I should feel negative, and this is when I should feel good. But guess what happens when you take this away? If you did not care about politics at all, you would not feel negative nor positive. You would feel neutral, and you would not experience suffering. But only because you have a vested interest do you experience suffering or positive emotions about something. And well, think about it. We get to at least influence who we believe we are. We can change and move around pieces of our identity, which means that at the end of the day, suffering is in your control. You do not have to suffer if you do not want to. And well, at the end of the day, our identity is just a thought believed in. Goodbye. No, wait, I'm not finished. I still have some coffee left. And a possible refill. In fact, enjoy this meme.
But my life is good. Really good. It's the best. I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you're stuck with me now, friend. You see, the Buddha once told the parable of the two arrows. The first arrow we get hit with is the arrow from life. The pain of being in a body. The pain of our unfavorable circumstances. But the second arrow is the arrow we inflict upon ourselves through our reaction to the first. As Eckhart Tolle once said, the primary cause of our unhappiness is not what happens to us. It's our thoughts about it. On the spiritual path, identity is at the root of it all. Because we spend our whole lives believing that we are thoughts. What is the ego? The ego is a construct of memory and sense data. We wake up in the morning, but in the state of the dream, who are you? You forget your whole life. And even deeper in deep sleep, you most certainly forget it all. But only when you wake up and go and look in the mirror do you remember, oh, this is who I am. Just before you were flying in a faraway land with dinosaurs and dragons and things like that. So who is the real you? I don't know about you, but when I dream, it seems just as real as me living out here. Not in the same way, whereas but in the dream I assume this is the true nature of reality. Only when I wake up back into my life again, do I remember that, oh, I'm living this life. And once the mind awakens, all of our identities come springing forth. But on the spiritual path, we inquire, who is this ego? Who is this identity? Literally, if I could sum up all the spiritual teachings, quite a task, I know. It's basically, you're not your ego, you're not your thoughts, you're not even this body. And the true recognition of this fact is freedom from suffering, salvation, enlightenment, liberation, nirvana, valhalla, moksha, freedom. So if you'd like to be free from suffering, continue watching. If not, I'm really stepping into my role as a spiritual guru, judging you for not agreeing with me. You will be shunned by the group and feel that you cannot speak your truth, because I, with the magical pyramid, know all things, and if you do not agree with me, then you must be wrong. And I am secretly controlled by this sock puppet. He tells me what to do. He makes these videos. I really don't want to do this. He's holding me against my will. No. He's got me addicted to coffee. Drink it. Drink more! Okay. I actually hate coffee. I'm getting more unhinged by the day. Just wait. Hell is separation. It's darkness. Ignorance. Mathematics. What is mathematics? Negativity and positivity. You can't have negative without positive, and they are both equal in value, but opposite in degree. So everything that is true for one side has to be equally true on the opposite side. So the opposite of separation is unity. The opposite of darkness is light. Ignorance, truth, unconsciousness, awareness. Simply put, well, you can ask yourself, how much do you suffer on a daily basis? How miserable is your life? Because we are all on a spectrum. Some of us are autistic, but most of us are ignorant. So to the degree in which you suffer on a daily basis, if 1 was hell and 10 was heaven, the more you're in here, the more you are living in ignorance. Sorry. And the more you're living in separation and unconsciousness. And so one tip for your spiritual journey, you know you're on the right path when you start feeling better. What is heaven? Joy, love, and peace. The more you feel relief, the more you feel at ease, a sense of freedom. That is the main indicator that you are moving up in life, my friend. And all the things you do that create more suffering in your life, you just gotta stop it. Over time. And so what happens? The separation is created by the ego, or more fundamentally by the mind in general. So the more we are attached to our ego, to our mind identity, the more we suffer, the more we're stuck in ignorance. And you can just kind of intuitively think about your own life. When you love somebody and you are separated from them, let's say you have an argument, it feels like hell. But then when you come together in unity, it feels like heaven. When you're lost in a dark forest and you're alone and it's cold, it's scary, it feels like hell. But if you're around a nice campfire with friends, safe. But you see, as Christ said, unless you come to me as little children, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. What does this mean? In order to return to unity, we must let go of our attachments to the mind, to our identity, because the ego is like a dark cloud that covers up the light and the warmth of the sun. It creates a sense of separation from God, from what is our true nature. Joy, love, peace, and freedom. And so what do? We spend our whole lives struggling and fighting to find these things. But you are the source of what you seek. Heaven is reuniting with your true nature, reuniting with the source within you. And hell is being separated from that source, because the source within you radiates joy, love, peace. And so all the spiritual journey is coming to the conclusion that you are not your mind, because we've spent our whole lives believing that we were. And once you see firsthand that you are not your mind, you stop feeding into it. You stop making the dark cloud worse, and the dark cloud begins to dissipate day by day by day. And a natural harmony begins to enter into your life. You bring heaven on earth because you become a perfect vessel for life. You could say heaven is eternal life and hell is eternal death. And so things like depression, suffering, negative emotions in general It's the experience of being consumed by death. Why? Because we have become so attached to our mind identity that it's perpetually hemorrhaging our energy. And energy is the force of life. You see, it is a scientific fact that we are all made of the same stardust. But we don't go around living as if we are energy, do we? No, we exist in separation, as separate individual human beings. But that is ignorance, because at the end of the day, you are stardust. Wow. You are energy. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And that is why we suffer. Because we're living in ignorance, we are separated from the truth, the true nature of what we are. And the spiritual journey is all about reconnecting to that true nature, realizing that the kingdom of God is in you, and that if anything is in you, that thing cannot ever be separated from you. You are already one with God. You are already in heaven. You're only dreaming that you're not. It is your perception, your belief in your thoughts that creates suffering. And so in the original example, we say, I hate Donald Trump. And because you say that, you suffer. Simple as that. And then you begin ruminating on all the ways you hate him. Oh, he's this kind of person. He's that kind of person. He's mean. And you feed that ego. You keep feeding that fire. More and more suffering. More and more suffering. But the true nature of everything is energy. You're not judging Donald Trump. You're judging life itself. You're judging God. Not that Trump is God. God is the only thing that is. That is why Christ said, when you judge the least of thee, you judge me, because there is no separation. And your judgment of life is nothing but a confession of character. The way you see the world is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your ego. Because reality is being filtered through your mind. So whatever information you have in your mind, it's getting projected out onto the world, and that is what you see. You do not see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. And because you believe yourself to be a separate individual, a little human being doing their thing, this causes an endless cycle of suffering. For no other reason than you are separated from the truth. The truth which radiates joy, love, peace, and freedom. And how do we find this truth? Through awareness. Through the light of your awareness. Because through your awareness, you dissolve the darkness of ignorance. And so all we do is be aware of the fact that you are not your ego. You don't have to destroy the ego or fight it. Because the ego is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Try to find it right now. I'll wait. 10,000 years later. Have you found it yet? Are you done? Take 60 seconds to close your eyes and try to find the person you believe yourself to be. And no matter how hard you try, it's not there. Because the person we believe ourselves to be is a construct of memory. Only when we open our eyes again and look in the mirror or go and interact with another person do we remember, oh, yes, I am this person. As Ram Dass would say, I'll pretend you are the person you believe yourself to be, so long as you pretend that I am the person I believe myself to be. And so it's basically just a bunch of egos feeding each other, which is why the world is a mess. Everybody's living in ignorance. It's not your fault. It's the whole point of the whole game. God forgot that God was God, so God could enjoy remembering that God was God. And let me tell you, it's a wonderful experience. Because contrast gives life meaning. The more you suffer, the better it feels when you are relieved of that suffering. And anybody can become awakened. All human beings on the planet. But one of the main prerequisites is you must seek. You must seek freedom. And most people are kind of too comfortable. Their life isn't really that bad, but it's not really that good either. So you can kind of maintain a miserable life. But those who suffer the most have the strongest desire for freedom and are the greatest candidates for awakening. Now, there's a bit of a adjustment period. You kind of have to process The fact that everything we've known to be true was a lie, and who we are isn't actually who we believed we were. This is what it means to awaken from the Matrix. To realize we have been sleeping our whole lives in a false reality, in an illusion. The only difference between real life and the Matrix is that the truth is actually good, and that living in ignorance is the nightmare. Once you realize your true nature, you are basically free for all eternity. You can never truly be separated from these things again. Now, because the ego has some juice, we've been feeding it our whole lives, we'll get pulled back into ego identity again and again. But like when you turn off the power to a fan, it keeps rotating for a while before eventually it stops. So once you unplug the ego, it has already met its demise, even if it continues spinning for a while. And what happens is that from this place of freedom, you can live your life. I like to say most people are living life on demo mode. They believe themselves to be the character in the video game. But once you realize that you're behind the screen with the controller in your hands, now you're free to play. Because when you're in the game, you're afraid of bad things happening to you. Fundamentally, this is a life of fear. But the moment you realize that nothing can hurt you, that you are free, that you are eternal, you cannot die, then you become fearless. It doesn't mean you go out and start doing stupid things, but you become liberated, truly. And you can express yourself for who you are authentically. Whereas in this realm, we're always wearing a mask, pretending to be someone we're not, caring about what other people think, rising to others' expectations, disappointing others, a whole bunch of psychological stuff. But on this side, you are just free to be. And you don't really care about other people's nonsense, because the relief that you experience over here is so wonderful and so beautiful that you cannot even imagine going back. The moment you taste even a drop of the water of God, you would give up your whole life in an instant, because most people are just running around on a hamster wheel trying to satisfy their sense pleasures, trying to find happiness. In the same place they lose it. And they don't realize that they are the source of all happiness. And most often only until we realize that we cannot find what we are looking for in the world, do we find what we seek. When your world is not going the way you want it to, it forces you to go within yourself. And within you is the freedom, is the peace, is the love, is the joy. And the spiritual saint Ramakrishna once said, "We are like nails, and God is like the great magnet." But because we're covered in all of this kind of earthliness, or ego conditioning, we are not attracted to God. We are attracted to the world. But once you begin freeing yourself from a bit of that conditioning, seeking the truth, eventually you become more and more magnetized toward God, and less pulled by the world. And you return to heaven, everlasting joy. And it doesn't require you to die to experience this. You can experience it while you're living. And you have the power to bring others there as well. Because once you come to this side of the equation, you realize the only thing left to do is help others do the same. Because you've already made it. There's nothing really left to do. But there sure are a lot of people still stuck in suffering. So come over to the light, my friend. We've got coffee. We've got hand puppets. And we've got magical pyramids. Is that the light of God? Huh? Whoa. Ooh. Whoa. He likes this, trust me. I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.